Is there going to be a move to put bond interest up in the neighborhood where it will keep pace with the rising cost of living?
Oh, I have no idea about that. I would think that as long as we are competitive with our interest, with that in commerce, that's all they should do. I don't think the government should pay more than a savings bank would pay.
Well, I think you did last year with that payroll savings figure.
Yes, sir.
The $4 billion.
$4.7 billion payroll savings last year.
Why have more people cashing in bonds than buying?
Well, I think that was my opening statement. The reason they're doing it is because they have saved through the years, and they find there's more things like good investments or going to school or health reasons, some reason or other. They've decided that they would rather have the money than have it in bonds. And I think that's great. I see nothing wrong with that. So you have complete control over a savings bond. You save it and it's all yours. You're not giving it to somebody else. And when you do cash it in, the dollar is there. It's worth $1. Now you can talk about whether the inflationary dollar makes it good or bad, but then I'll talk to you all day about whether putting in Sears stock is good or somebody's stock is good. When the economy goes down, so does the stock market go down. But here you've got $1, whatever the dollar is worth, and you know you can count on it. And I think people in the brackets of saving $200 or $300 a year need to know that they can count on that the money is there. More important than what interest they get. Because if you saved $300 this year, for example, at 5%, and last year was 4 1/4, you know what that'd be for the year in interest? It'd be a difference of $1.75. Now that isn't going to be the reason why you save $300, is it? Of course not. You saved it because you want to save the money, whether you got any interest or not. So I think we make too big a thing over what the interest rate is on payroll savings bonds.
Mr. Shannon, you have a committee, but just exactly why do you have this committee?
This committee was formed by the House of Representatives to make an inquiry into what needs to be done in county government in Texas as a whole, not only in the metropolitan areas, but in the rural areas, as far as updating county government, making it more responsive to its current needs, current problems, and we're hoping to have a real good group of people to take a lot of time and a lot of study and look into the situation and make some real sound, concrete recommendations for legislation during the next session of the legislature.
Let's be specific. The House Speaker must have had some reason for the formation of this committee. He must have had some reasons that he thought maybe the county needed to be reorganized. Do you know of any specific things?
Well, of course, its county government has been kicked around for a long time in the legislative halls, and there were many recommendations made a few years ago that caused an awful lot of interest in it, and it's a continuing problem. I think most everybody is pretty well agreed that some changes need to be made. Exactly what they are and what is feasible, of course, is something we don't know yet, and we won't know until we have time to take a good long look into the problems of all the counties of Texas.
How will this committee go about looking into these problems?
Well, we'll have 9 members of the committee. There'll be 5 members of the House and 4 laypersons who are involved with county government and who are knowledgeable on the subject. And we'll have hearings around the state in the metropolitan areas as well as in the rural areas, and hear from the people who are closely associated with county government as to the problems and as to the advantages of county.
Harris County, Dallas County, and Tarrant County, we're rapidly reaching the point where there's not going to be any such thing as a county where ground is concerned. The ground is all going to be incorporated into small communities and this sort of thing. Now, this is going to mean a major change in county government because a lot of functions which are now provided by county government won't be necessary. What are you going to do about that?
Well, we will make recommendations with regard to these problems as to cooperation between your metropolitan areas and your county areas, not only specifically say road functions in your metropolitan areas are fast decreasing, but nevertheless in your rural counties this is still a major thing. This is the reason why we've got such a real job ahead of us, because there's so many diverse situations with regard to county government in Texas in 254 counties.
Isn't there a possibility that this might become quite a political hot potato when you get to delving into some of your rural counties?
It has that possibility. Anytime you start suggesting changes, you're going to have people who are opposed to any kind of change. we doubt very seriously the recommendations will meet with complete unanimity. We want to put together a series of recommendations that not only will be beneficial to county government and to the taxpayers, but will also have a chance of passage in the legislature. And you will recall that the legislature is still rurally oriented and will be until such time as we have another redistricting next year. So we've got to look at what we can accomplish and what we think ought to be accomplished.
Okay.
I would hate to think that we're selling bonds for Vietnam or some war situation. We're selling bonds for the whole government picture. And just yesterday in Houston, we were talking about if we didn't have this bond background behind us, we'd be going to the moon in a bus instead of the equipment we have today. After all, we have government financing for everything, whether it be for education or health or whatever it is. So I don't think I would be at all interested in answering a question saying we're selling bonds for the Vietnam War. And I haven't heard of anybody not buying them for that reason.
Buying bonds has traditionally been considered the patriotic thing to do. Is the peace movement and a lot of the youth criticism of the government having any effect on bond sales?
No, I think that's just about the same answer I just gave. No, I don't think so at all, because last year we had a big increase in bond sales when it was 4.25%, before it was 5%. I worked on it last year. We've sold $4.7 billion in bonds last year. And this year we expect to sell over $5 billion.
One of the more serious problems is the fact that so much of the work that should be performed by the federal employees is being contracted out to private industry at a cost which is greater than what it would be if done within the house. This caused a reduction in forces, caused a loss of morale, loss of the job security, and is really a problem for the federal employees as a whole.
Could you cite some examples of types of work being done outside the house, as you put it?
Yes, such as maintenance work. Take, for instance, the General Services Administration in their custodial and maintenance work. They contract a lot of this work out. I can't blame the administrators for that because they're not given sufficient positions so as to do the work within the house. They have to contract it out.
I believe the only reason Joe didn't talk about specific incidents or circumstances simply because he didn't want me to worry. He did of course tell me that it was dangerous, and he knew it. He could have, had he wanted, gotten a new assignment, but he believed that what he was doing was very important to his country and to the people there in Laos. Therefore, he felt that he was needed there, and that's why he wanted to stay there.
Now, his job, as I remember from reading previously, was described as being assigned to the embassy, to the military attaché. If that's true, how did this kind of duty relate to his being killed, do you know?
Well, Joe was in Mang Sui, Laos, which is a small village in northern Laos, very close to the northern section of the communist-held section of Laos. If you don't know the area, it's kind of hard to explain it. But he was close to the what you'd call the enemy line.
Come on around here. Some of you people who want to. You'll never become a member of the orderly, would you please? Okay, everybody ready? 1, 2, 3, let her go! Aha!
But I'm not saying that all county government needs to be changed. I don't want to presuppose what the committee might recommend. I'm sure we'll recommend some changes. We'll also probably recommend some of the status quo.
In the event that you get into a county situation in some other county in the state that is uncooperative, will you have subpoena powers?
The committee will have subpoena powers if it becomes necessary. I doubt very seriously that it will be, but...
if it were to become necessary, would you subpoena certain county officials and ask them specific questions?
If it was necessary to the conduct of the investigation. We're not engaging in a witch hunt. We're not trying to do anything to any particular person or group of people. We're just interested in knowing what is good about county government and what is bad about it. Whatever it takes to get to that, I think, is in the interest of the taxpayers.
What kind of things do you expect to find?
I don't really know, Jerry, at this point. I can't say what we'll find. I think we'll find many people with many diverse ideas as to what changes ought to be made. It's impossible to say what we'll find because there's so many different counties and so many different problems around the state.
Now, you say you don't really expect, or you leave me with the impression you don't expect to find any bad guys or any really bad guys. Are you looking for ways to make county government more functional, or are you looking for ways to make county government more honest?
We'll be looking for both. We'll be looking for ways to make county government more responsive and more down to earth and closer to the needs of the people in the 20th century.